Rebecca, I'm looking at your video here that's called Christianity versus the World, and I was very interested in reading what you had to say here about Thomas Paine and his beliefs in deism, and how he seemed very angry and bitter toward Christianity and Christians. That was very interesting to me. And then, of course, this video was very powerful. As I watched it a little bit earlier, I was struck by just the sadness of what happens to people around the world. All of your arguments are good and sound, and they're based on true evidence. I like the fact that you don't just put a picture in or put a video in, but you talk about those things as well, and you have given your sources and cited everything. The only problem I see is in editing. You have several errors here, and let's just go back to the beginning and look at some of them. You say, as Thomas Paine wrote his third work, he forced some of his ideas and thoughts onto the readers of the time. One influential work he named The Age of Reason was written in 1794 while he was imprisoned in France. Here, this comma should only be there if you put a comma here. One influential work was written in 1794 as the main sentence. If you put a comma after work and then a comma after the Age of Reason, this sets off this section as an appositive. If you don't put this original comma, you're placing a comma between the subject and the verb. So be careful about that. In the very next sentence in this work, comma, Paine focused on acknowledging the Deist Manifesto core he had created. The idea that nature was the only form of divine revelation and that God established an internal order that everything would fulfill throughout creation, no comma here, was the basis of his beliefs. So there are lots of comma things going on. I noticed those in several different places. Be careful to know what the comma rules are and to obey those comma rules carefully. I think there was another problem on down, if I can remember correctly. Let me see if I can find it here. As I was reading, it seemed to me there may have been something else. Things like this not only happen in other lower countries, they happen right here in the United States as well, comma as well. One of the most well-known hyphenated instances was the Columbine High School shooting. Whenever you research this topic, comma, one name in particular that pops up is a young girl by the name of Cassie Bernal. The story goes that when one of the teenage gunmen, E, because there was more than one, approached Cassie in the library that day, he asked her if she believed in God and this should be a period because it's a statement. Without any hesitation, she simply says yes, said, past tense, yes, comma, and the gunman shot and killed her. So be careful about tenses as well. Other than your punctuation errors and your subject-verb agreement errors, your blog is very well written, it's very interesting, and it does make the point that you want to make. So in this case, I'm going to give you a 90 on this blog, but be very careful because remember, grammar mechanics is worth 20 points out of the 100, and these kind of consistent errors could cause you to make a lower grade in the future.